Awesome. Yeah, YouTube says we're live. Wonderful. All right, so welcome everybody. Welcome. Let's see here. Awesome. Thank you, Robert. Welcome to the channel. Thank you for being a new channel member. Sudhanva, welcome. 23, welcome back. Awesome. Looks like we got a good crowd already. All right, so yes, so thank you for becoming a channel member, Robert. So as a little bit of announcement for those of you who haven't seen my most recent upload, I am going to start doing a private stream for channel members starting in February, where together we will go through my textbook. Wrong side, textbook. We're going to go like one chapter per week is the plan. I'm going to basically, so that it's going to be like a studying plus a class kind of thing. And it's just for channel members. So if you become a channel member, you can get access to those live streams. And if you want to participate with your own copy of the book, you don't need a copy of the book, but if you would like one, they are currently on sale for 20% off for the remainder of the month to kind of prep for the new stream series. Other than that, February is going to be a pretty big month. I'm going to start posting at least one video every single week is my goal, starting in February. Again, patrons and channel members will get access to videos early. It's probably starting in the last week of January. Then there were two other things I'm doing. Oh yeah, I'm also going to host 4 different composing competitions this year. That's the goal. As well as doing a massive overhaul of my emotions and music class to expand beyond just emotions and music and go full on storytelling. Basically taking a lot of inspiration from composers like Howard Shore in terms of like how do you write a bunch of themes and then develop them to not only capture emotions in a film, but to actually effectively tell a story. So that's the 4 really big things that are going on for the channel this year that I'm very excited about. All with the goal of trying to double my subscribers this year. That's my goal. And the very, very that's already an ambitious goal, but a super ambitious goal is I want to try and get 100,000. See if I can just do something crazy like that this year. So we'll see what happens. Sensum, welcome. Thank you. Happy New Year. Looking forward to the member videos. I now have the book and will use the member videos as a watch along exercise. Awesome. Thank you very much. I'm glad you got the book. That was your Christmas present, right? I think I saw a comment about that you said earlier. That's really, really cool. That's kind of trippy for me. I'm still getting used to the idea of something I wrote being used as a gift for other people, which is just kind of crazy. But I hope you enjoy it. And yes, I'm very excited for him as well. Because my book and my class, I think, are the 2 things I'm most proud of. Just because I'm very passionate about sharing music education. So I think those are really, really good resources. Yeah, with that update, actually, the class is now open for enrollment. And before I start working on like some music and stuff, let's just get some ads out of the way, shall we? Check out my website. The Emotions and Music class has got a little bit of an update because in order to work on expanding the class, I've dissolved the cohort program. So now it's just enroll at your own pace. Whenever you want to enroll, you can enroll. You don't have to wait for a new class to open. And instead of weekly live lessons where I have to coordinate a bunch of students' schedules and coordinate like lesson plans and all that kind of stuff, for me, I'm just treating these like private lessons. So if you sign up for the class, you get 3 one-hour private lessons. Just because in terms of my calendar and my scheduling, it's just a lot less of a headache to schedule private lessons than it is to try and coordinate like a whole class of students. So yeah, you can sign up for this if you'd like. There are payment plans available. I think that's the last of my advertisements. Tamashi, welcome. Excellent. Getting right to the question, Tamashi. What am I composing today? I'm just kind of having a little bit of fun. So I am working right now on a super simple ethereal track. We'll start hit play. Where I'm doing a soundscape. And I'm doing this for a tutorial. I have received a couple requests for ambient soundscapes. And so I've just started playing around with one today. I'll break down the basic kind of structure of this. Can you guys hear this? Can you guys hear? Yes, Tamashi. The class is the Emotions and Music class is live. The update is not. So let me pull that up. So the class about like storytelling with music, that's going to be an update of the class. So this right here is just the regular emotions and music class. Well, regular. This is my emotions and music class. It will be the new class. I'm adding about 100 modules to it for the new class. So the price will go up just because there's going to be an insane amount of additional material about writing character themes, writing melodies that are catchy and lyrical and that help tell a story, creating soundscapes that feel like they belong in the world that you're telling. So there's going to be a whole lot of really cool information that I'm adding, about 100 new modules, like I said. So that's not available yet. That's taking a long time to put together. But the cool thing is anyone who has taken this class is going to get grandfathered in. So if you have purchased this class beforehand, I'll just give you free access to the updated course because I don't believe in paying twice for things. So yeah, awesome. So everyone who's taken the class up to now, you're going to get a free update. You got that to look forward to. Anyone who signs up for this class before the update gets released, you're also going to get a free update. Because, not going to lie, the new class I'm thinking is probably going to be about 500 instead of 250 like this one. That's probably the goal just because it's going to be hours and hours and hours of content and even significantly more hours of my life put into building it. It's probably not going to be ready for at least half a year. It's that big of a project, and I'm doing it by myself. But yeah, so that's a little update there. So yes, just wanted to make sure the huge class, it's not available yet. I'm still working on that. Right now, what's available is the Emotions and Music class, and everyone who signs up for that now will be grandfathered into the big expansion. Job Step, welcome. Jack, I suddenly heard children laughing and thought I was going crazy. Yes, no, that's from this piece that I'm working on. So I'll explain it in a bit. Thank you, Jack. I'm assuming you're calling me the goat. Thank you. It's the children are just in your head, Jack. Let's see. You published a load of ambient tracks on your second channel, I think. Can't you reveal your process in that? Oh, yeah, Tamashi, I already did that. The process for the ambient tracks that I did. Just look up Tabletop Composer. Skyrim. This one right here. How to write ambient fantasy music like Skyrim. This tutorial is the one that teaches my process that I used to write a bunch of ambient tracks on my second channel. So yeah, excellent. Hopefully that answers your questions. Let's get to some music, shall we? So this is a soundscape piece. A soundscape meaning that it's a piece of music that uses recordings from the real world. So for this one in particular, which a couple of you have been talking about, uses an old recording of a playground, which I just thought was super trippy because the realization that this recording on YouTube was over a decade old and the idea that most of these kids are probably adults now. And that just kind of threw me. I was like, that's really, really trippy. So I'm going to use that to make a soundscape. And so the first step for the soundscape, I'm going to make a whole tutorial video about this. I'm working on this. It's a super, super simple little piece. I'm not doing anything intricate, anything crazy. I'm just putting a simple piece together, and I will eventually make a video tutorial about this. But so let's turn this off, and you'll hear what it just sounds like by itself. All right, so this is the original recording. So then what I did to create a little bit more of like an ambient quality is first I filtered it. This will turn on. So I have two filters. I pull this over. I have a low pass filter, or a high pass filter. Sorry, everything's popping up on my other screen. So I have a high pass filter first, which reduces some of the lower frequencies. So you can see all this kind of rumbling down here. I got rid of that because a lot of really cool things about ambient tracks is they sound like they're coming from a distance. And a very simple way to make a sound feel like it's coming from far away is remove some of the lower frequencies. Higher frequency sounds travel farther than lower frequency sounds. So I cut a little bit of those out. Then I tuned it just a little bit with a couple notch filters. One here about 1040 hertz, about right here, which is a C. So I kind of tuned it. You can kind of hear a little bit of a natural C. Then I have this one over here on another C, And then this one, is it notch filter? Yep. This one right here is tuned to a G, as you will see, to kind of create a very, very subtle kind of perfect fifth and octave relationship in there. Just give a little bit of pitch. Then after I filtered the sound, I added a bunch of reverb using one of my favorite reverb plugins, Realm by Native Instruments. Super wet, meaning that most of the sound is now reverb, and most of it, there's only about 25% of the original signal. A very large size, a pretty long decay. In fact, let's increase this decay a little, shall we? For about 4 seconds. Diffusion helps smooth it helps smooth a little bit of like the initial frequencies from the tail. So the initial reverberations from the tail. There's a lot of really cool things in this plugin that you can experiment with. One really cool thing is like if you freeze it and then change the size, you can kind of create a riser, but that's a different thing. Not really what I'm working with right now. Then after I applied those, I added a little bit of automation. First to the volume, to have the sounds gradually fade in, and then fade back down. And then to have each of my notch filters gradually be applied, so that the sound gradually gets tuned just a little bit. So that's part one of this track that I've worked on so far. And like I said, nothing crazy. Let's see here. Oh, wonderful. Sensum, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you, my friend. Sorry, I didn't see that. Let's see here. Sensum, the content in your book is superb. The reading music introduction in the first chapters is excellent for people with no formal music theory like myself. It's a great resource and very extensive. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate it. I'm so glad you find the book helpful. I'm so glad that you're finding it useful, and I'm really excited to start going through the chapters with you. Because again, as channel members, starting in February, I will be doing a second stream every week, private just for channel members, and then the recordings will be uploaded to Patreon. I'm sorry, patrons. I just haven't figured out how to like make the channel only, like the member only streams available on Patreon. But the recordings will be available on Patreon. And the initial ones, the first 36 streams or so, are going to be going through chapters of my book. So if you want to become a channel member, it's super cheap. Do that. The book is also on sale if you want a copy of the book right now. And yeah, it's gonna be really fun. It's basically, you're going to have a start to finish A to Z class with me, where I teach you from scratch how to be a composer, how to have the skill level of a professional composer. We're gonna start, like Sensum says, in the first couple chapters of learning how to read sheet music. And not just that, but like learning why sheet music is written a certain way and why it's useful, stuff like that. And then all the way, the very last chapter is all about creating realistic mock-ups for your professional level arrangements for modern orchestra. James, welcome. Jab step, I'm not sure if you've answered this before, but what would be the difference between producing and composing? Excellent question. Very excellent. At their core, they're like at a philosophical level, they're not different. On a philosophical level, composers and producers do the same thing. They create music. From a contextual statement, composers typically work more with traditional kind of like music in terms of like instrumentation, songs, arrangements, stuff like that, where producers tend to work more strictly with electronic music and beat making. So like a producer is a composer the same way that a songwriter is a composer. They're just kind of like a subsection of composers. So if a composer is like anyone who writes music, a producer is a composer who specializes in creating beats and electronic music. A songwriter is a composer who specializes in writing songs. A film composer is a composer who specializes in writing music for film. A media composer is a broader stand for anyone who does like film, video games, theater, apps, and library music, stuff like that. So they're just kind of more specific definitions of composers, if that makes sense. So yeah, to use like a nerdy metaphor, if you play D&D, like a composer is like being a paladin, whereas a producer versus songwriter versus Film composer is like the specific type of paladin that you are. Or I guess a cleric would probably be a better example. But like the specific type of cleric you are. So they're just descriptors. I hope that helps. Let's see here. And Sudhanva. Uh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I was calling me amazing. I appreciate that. 23. You said you were excited to tell us about a new VST you found. Was it ROM or did I miss something while I wasn't looking? Ah, yes, I haven't told you about that yet. So, let me tell you. So, those of you who have been following me for a while know that I like something called Note Performer. All right? Note Performer is an AI plugin that's been around for a long time that basically helps create more realistic sounds for notation software. Things like Finale or Dorico or Sibelius, so that people who write with traditional music notation can get a more realistic performance of their music from their computer while they're composing. Note Performer recently released a really freaking cool plugin. I believe it's called Note Performer Engine. Where the idea is, it's an expansion of the original concept, where the original concept was that they used synths to portray the instruments like they normally do in notation software, but it used a little bit of AI to read the sheet music the way a human performer would read the sheet music. And so like, oh, get louder here, get softer here, get a little bit, and some of like the intangibles, like how a musician will typically get quieter near the end of a phrase, even if it's not marked to get quieter near the end of the phrase. It's just something that musicians tend to do. But what they've done is they've created this AI software, this engine, that will create MIDI mockups for you using your own sound libraries. And the mockups will be created based off music notation. So whereas if I wanted to do strings and I wanted to create a realistic performance of a string patch, some of the things I would need to worry about is I would have to manually adjust my modulation. I'd have to manually adjust my velocity. I'd have to manually adjust my expression data. And then depending on who you ask, I'd also have to do my main volume. So I have 4 different things minimum that I would need to adjust individually for each instrument to get the kind of performance I want that most musicians playing a real instrument would get just in real time. It would just be decisions they make while they read the sheet music. So Note Performer has released a new plugin that does all of this for you and makes all of these intricate decisions for you based off the sheet music you're reading. Basically making your DAW a little bit smarter at reading actual sheet music so that you don't have to go in and modify everything. Now, I'm still experimenting with it. I do plan on having a live stream where I'll share myself just kind of like exploring the plugin and seeing what it's capable of, finding my own workflow with it. And then after I've had some time to explore it and show it off in a live stream, I'm going to make an actual sponsored video by the good folks at No Performer who gave me the plugin. Basically sharing my thoughts on it, what I think it means for the future, and why I recommend it. Because right now I recommend it. It's really, really cool. It saves you a lot of time. People who really, really enjoy making their own mockups probably won't like it that much because it's still in its infancy. But mockups can be a very tedious process. So a mockup is just making your sound library sound super realistic, making them perform as closely to a real musician as possible. And so now it's just I think one of the cool and acceptable applications of AI is helping composers focus more on writing the actual music and not necessarily needing to learn so much about how to make each individual sound library sound exactly how you want it to. That is an art form of it in and of itself. So if, like, this is personally my own opinion, I enjoy making mockups, but they're one of my least favorite parts of the composing process. I enjoy writing my melodies. I love writing my arrangements and my orchestrations. I don't particularly enjoy spending hours and hours and hours trying to force my sound libraries to sound as similar to my vision in my head as I possibly can. And so if a plugin comes around and says, hey, I can do like 85% of that work for you, then I'm like, hell yeah, let's try this out, right? 1 second, my phone's going off. Let me make sure it's not an emergency. Doesn't look like it. Wonderful. Flim Flammery, thank you for stopping by, my friend. No worries. I got it. Thanks. I thought being a composer was like being a bard. That probably would be a better example. So I think, yeah, bards are technically more of the composers. I was looking more for like a D&D class that has a lot of subclasses, for my example. But let's move on, shall we? So we talked about the background noise here and creating the actual soundscape part of an ambient soundscape. The next part that I worked on was the texture, the chord. So a lot of ambient tracks don't actually have intricate chord progressions. They're just background, kind of noise-ish. So I picked one chord. In this case, I picked a sus4 chord, which I just thought sounded really beautiful. And so I have, the point of this kind of tutorial that I'm working on right now is I'm trying to show people how to do, I'll eventually involve more synths involved, but a lot of people just want to be able to do this kind of genre, but they don't know a lot about synths. So I'm trying to do an ambient track without synths, just VSTs. So I have 3 right now to create the kind of transforming quality. First, I have a pipe organ with just the choir stops. And it's just playing a constant steady chord. Then, on top of this, I have my strings. And my strings are doing 2 different things. They're panning, so they're gradually moving constantly. And then they are going to gradually fade out so that they're super quiet. And as they fade out, my woodwinds are fading in. So that we create this illusion of a transforming, gradually changing quality of sound. And I probably got to work on the balance a little bit. I've added some reverb, but I could probably add some filters to kind of like change this, maybe a little bit of saturation, some things to make it sound a little more synthy. Maybe add a little more kind of like stronger panning. But when you put it all together, you get your backdrop. All right? So then from here is where I start coming up with some cool little things. Right? All right. So looks like I'm caught up on comments, caught up on questions. If you are watching this, don't forget to like the stream. That helps so much for YouTube. YouTube loves to see engagement. Like the stream and then comment, even if you're just leaving an emoji or something. So at this point, I have explained how I got to this point so far. Let's actually put in a little bit of a pseudo melody, shall we? Here I've got a cello patch. So let's try to record something real quick, shall we? Let's just see what comes in. I'm going to add my metronome on, and I'm going to let the soundscape come in. I'm going to let the chords come in, and then I will gradually, eventually, probably, I think, measure 10-ish is about where I'll start playing the melody. Let's do it now, actually. All right, I like that. All right, I feel like I ripped that off from something, though, because it sounds very familiar. Does anybody recognize that? I feel like it sounds similar. It's not the same thing, but it's similar to the August Rush theme, which is an amazing movie. If you guys haven't seen that, I highly recommend it. Checking. All right, so the timings are about the same. I'm thinking around this low C. Let's add a pulsing synth here, like a low pulsing synth, shall we? Jack, mask on, steal it. Yep. Yeah, you know what? Smart. Like Stravinsky said, or I think it's a attributed to Stravinsky. I don't know if he actually said it, but Stravinsky said that good composers borrow, but great composers steal. I like it. I think it works. And if no one else recognizes what it's from, and I can't pinpoint what it's from, yeah, I'm just gonna use it. Take a sip from my tea. Yes, so this is a cello. Let's treat this cello a little bit, shall we? All right, so I've already got... No, I don't want to do any of that. All right, let's treat these dynamics a little bit, actually, this shape. Let's get rid of the metronome. All right, let's... I feel like the... Why? I want this to feel a bit more like a slide. Let's check on this. Let's bring this over here. Bring this way. This sounds a little bit better. Let's bring this down a little bit quicker. Let's try updating the... Let's give the reverb a little bit of a stronger tail, shall we? 23. It doesn't matter if Stravinsky said it first, because if he stole it, it would still be meaningful. That's a stupid joke. I love it though. All right, let's see here. Let's do 3.5 seconds, and let's mute the cello, and let's increase the mix too. Let's do a 75% mix. Make it just super wet sound. And let's solo the cello here. I'm gonna pour some more tea. Hope you don't mind the sound. I like that. I might make some changes later, but for now, I'm just trying to get a minimum viable product. And I think that works. It gets my idea across. So then, right here, what beat is that? That is... All right, so I'm really not paying attention to the beat that much, but right here is where I want to double that. I want to add a synth. Do I have synths on my on this computer? I've got massive. I'm just gonna make something super, super simple. Something I want to be felt more than actively noticed. All right, let me bring this over here. No preset loaded. There we go. Let's mute our oscillators. Let's do a pulse. Here we go. Let's do pulse. Let's see here. That sounds gritty for a pulse wave. Let's do a new sound. See what happens here. That sounds really. That sounds like a saw. Oh, that sounds like a saw wave. Let's do a sine wave then. Let's try it. There we go. We'll add a bit of a square wave to it. So that's a low pass filter. We don't really need much of that. What I do want is I want to add a little bit of unison. Oof. Let's drop that down a bit. There we go. Let's change. I don't like that clicking noise. Let's go to. It's been a minute since I've used massive. Where? Oh, here we go. So just increase the attack a little bit. Where is trigger? All right, let's do. Let's see here. I want to set trigger reset to off. How do I do that in this? How do I do that in massive? Anyone remember how to turn off trigger reset in massive? I'm more familiar with massive X at this point. All right, so this is the button. All right, so that's changing it a little bit. Let's add the attack a little longer. Is this not the amp envelope? There. Oh, okay. I was looking at the wrong envelope. That's why. All right, so let's do that. And then now, here we go. Let's do an LFO. We'll add this to the. Let's do sync. I don't want that clicking noise, though. The 16th notes. Let's make it a little less dramatic. I don't like that popping noise though. Anyone know what's causing the popping noises? I'm not a genius when it comes to synths. I have a very rudimentary understanding. Is it because I have trigger reset off? strong pop. Has anyone answered my question? Let's see here. No. All right, let's see. So how do I get rid of... It's that popping noise. Maybe if I didn't use it on... What if I used it on a filter instead? Nope, don't like that. It sounds kind of chippy, but it doesn't work for the... I like it. I like the sound it made. I don't like... There we go. Maybe if I reduce the resonance a bit. There, I like that a lot more. All right. I won't add reverb just yet. Let's add a little bit of... It's very subtle. Let's just see how it sounds. Because I didn't want anything serious. I just wanted something that could be a little felt. I hit the wrong note. Dang it. I forgot what I was working on. All right, so I was supposed to hit that. Let's actually, I don't feel like that hits hard enough. Let's do... just a little sub bass. That's super, super subtle. But I'm gonna try it. All right, so let's listen from the top, shall we? Tamashi, do you have any other synths other than Massive and Massive X? Oh yeah, on my desktop. So I'm still running off my laptop because I'm having so many issues trying to get my PC back online. Because it's a corrupted hard drive, so I'm trying to get a bunch of stuff off the hard drive. I'm hoping to have it back soon. So it hasn't been that big of a rush because I can just work from my laptop. I have a nice, strong laptop. But on my PC, I have a lot of synths. I've just spent the most time working with Massive X because I'm still kind of like a very beginner with synths. I am definitely not a producer. I am much more comfortable as a classical composer style person, but I love synths and I'm a huge geek over synths, and so I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to learn. But I have so many of them. Because a few years ago I got like a complete like a Contact Complete like Native Instruments complete package or something. So I got a lot of their synths, a couple of which have since been discontinued, like their Absinthe synth, which I still have. But let's see here. Jack, that sudden low cello note is a nice transition. Thank you. I liked it too. That's why I put it in there. Tamashi, you can play with attack on IFO to you can play with the attack on LFO to fix that click sound in the bottom right. Ah, thank you, Tamashi. So let's go into LFO. Where's the attack on the LFO though? Ah, here we are. I probably want to lengthen it. Nice. Thank you, Tamashi. Taught me something new. Gonna drop the amp a little bit because I want this to be a very subtle sound. Let's listen to it, all right? And we'll add it. And while we listen to this and I add some cello, if anyone has music theory questions or questions about like film scoring or anything, pop them in the comments. This is meant to be a live Q&A while I just kind of work on some fun projects. But so far we've just kind of been working on the projects, which I'm all for. But if you have questions, let me know, all right? I don't know, that feels almost a little cheesy. I don't know if I like that. That feels almost a little cheesy. What if, sticking with what I have, instead of a synthesizer, what if I use an organ? That would be cool. Because I'm already using an organ. It's super soft and super subtle at the moment. Got that. I don't want anything that strong. I like that. That nice, hear that hiss, that little breathing. Ooh, I like that. Let's do that instead. All right, so get rid of massive. It was a stupid little synth anyway. It wasn't anything crazy. Let's start with the cello. And we'll add the organ. All right, so getting some comments here. Let's see here. So Tamashi, you can play with the attack on the. Okay, so Tamashi, you can also adjust the curve above the sine curve at the bottom right, left of the attack control. Ooh, nice. Oh, I already exited out of it. All right, but yeah, I have a lot to learn with synths. I really appreciate the tip, Tamashi. That's really cool. Like I said, I know my way around a synth basically. But I do. That's another goal. That's a personal goal of mine. Is for 2025 is to get much more fluent. Like, I am quite fluent with the modern orchestra. I could tell you the different registers, ranges, tone colors of any instrument typically found in a modern orchestra, and as well as tips for writing for them. I've spent many years internalizing that information. And so now I want to start learning a little bit more about synths and get to the same kind of fluency. Tamashi, right now, 2 is the highest to the lowest. Ah, yes, thank you. Oh, yeah, so you were talking about, like, the curve. So, yeah, I was using a saw wave. And yeah, so from highest to lowest to create that pulsing quality. A sine wave, adding a bit more of the sine wave quality to it would help smooth that out a little bit. Jab step. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, it says YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience buffering. I'm sorry, people. I have no idea what to do to fix that. I apologize. Hopefully it's not insufferable. But Jabstep says, how good are you at playing piano, and how does it play a role in your arranging skills? I'm terrible at piano. I know enough to play in Little Ideas. I am not a performer. I am not good at playing. And I have never performed any of the pieces on piano that I have composed. I just lack the skill level to. I am very fortunate to have some incredibly skilled friends who look through my piano pieces and tell me whether they're actually playable and give me feedback on whether or not I've made mistakes about playability. And that helps. But no, for the most part, I am a pencil tool warrior. I use the pencil tool a lot. I would be wary of anyone who says you need to know like an instrument to know how to compose. Yes, it's helpful, but you don't need to know an instrument to compose. Many of the greatest composers in history were amateur performers at best. And to say that you are required to have an instrument in order to compose is to basically establish limitations on the future of music and what directions it can go in. And history has shown one thing. If it has shown one thing, it's that music critics who are hypercritical about modern music have never been correct. Beethoven got lambasted. Oh, it says OBS disconnected. It says OBS reconnected. I don't know what's going on, people. I apologize. So yeah, I apologize if you're not getting a clear streaming experience. It says I've got an excellent connection now, so hopefully it's not causing any issues. But yeah, Claude Debussy was yeah, it was punishable by expulsion from music schools to be caught with his music. And now he's one of the most influential composers of the last 100+ years. There isn't a composer alive who hasn't been influenced by his innovations. Chief amongst them being the elevation of timbre to being just as important as melody, rhythm, and harmony. Basically, making that the instrument choice and the types of sounds you're working with. And so the future of music, that's the crazy thing, is we never know what good music is, or quote unquote good music is, until at least 50 years have passed. Because we have no way of knowing which music will actually influence the future composers. So yeah, if you don't know how to play an instrument, that's fine. I recommend it. They're very fun, and they're really, really cool. And I am personally trying to get better at piano and guitar this year. But it's not necessary. It's not, in terms of, I don't think it's a prerequisite, and it should not be an obstacle. If anyone tells you that you can't be a composer if you don't play an instrument, that person, I'm going to tell you right now, they're probably not a composer. They probably don't know what they're talking about. And a lot of the most famous composers through history, like I said, would have been terrible composers in their view. Beethoven never learned how to play trumpet, to my knowledge, but he wrote for the trumpet. In fairness, Beethoven was an insanely talented piano player. Hans Zimmer very famously claims that he is not a performer, that he is a composer and not a performer. John Williams will also claim that, although again, he is a very talented piano player. Yeah, every composer is different. And so, yeah, I wouldn't let it hold you back. I would recommend trying to learn it because they are really, really cool. But I wouldn't say, yeah, it's not a requirement. It's not a blockade to your ability to enjoy music. All right, awesome. Oh, yeah, so you are trying to learn. Awesome, good for you. Sean Gilbert, do you know any really good instrument stacking resources? Most orchestration and arranging books are just instrumentation and voicing. Guidance on how people layer is somewhat sparse, in my honest opinion. Yes, so good choices on layering. Henry Brandt's Orchestral Textures is a good one. Orchestral Textures by Henry Brandt. Uh-oh. Am I losing internet connection again? Ah, textures and timbres. All right, I'm not going to click on this because I don't want to show you guys my address and where I live because I am signed into Amazon. But Textures and Timbres and Orchestrator's Handbook, that's a very good book. If you want something free, Tabletop Composer. Doubling. This is an old video. This is a more up-to-date one. How to combine instruments. This one will teach you a lot. I would say learning how to combine instruments. A lot of beginners are obsessed with finding a list. I'm trying to say like which instruments balance well with each other, which instruments make a good sound when played together. I was like that when I was a beginner. And something I've learned over the years is you're approaching it wrong. It shouldn't be which instruments balance well with each other, which ones double well together, because they pretty much all do. The question should be, why am I doubling? And what type of effect am I trying to have with my doubling? So in theory, there are two very basic types of doubling. One is like doubling and one is unlike doubling. Another way to think of them is functional versus expressive. So like or functional doubling is where you are doubling instruments and having them play the same part to help thicken your sound, to create a louder dynamic, to create a stronger presence. Typically, if that's your goal, if you just want to help give a little bit more strength to this layer of your music, you're going to want to combine instruments that sound very similar to each other. So typically instruments from the same family. So oboe and English horn playing, or violins and second violins in unison or octaves. Unison helps blend the sound a bit more. Octaves helps take up more space. So again, giving more presence. Even something as weird as like violin harmonics plus flute. Those both sound very, very similar. Or maybe flutes plus flute stops on a pipe organ. They don't have to be identical instruments. They just have to sound similar enough if your goal is to just make it more prominent. The second type, expressive or unlike doubling, is when you have instruments with starkly contrasting timbres double each other. So like cello plus French horn. And usually the goal for that is to create a more interesting blended sound. And for that, my recommendation is to start off by thinking about which instrument is going to be your primary source. Like French horn. You decide French horn, you want this quality of sound, and the French horn is the best option. And then you think about, okay, how do I want to modify the sound? How do I want to change it? So maybe you want a lusher, wider quality to the sound. In which case, adding the cello is a very good option because the cello, they take up more space on stage. They have a wider sound because there's more instruments playing at the same time. They're around roughly the same register, and they do have a very lush lyrical quality, so you can blend that in. To get a more specific and kind of dramatic experience, you could say, all right, I want my flute playing this melody, but I want my flute to have a little bit of a pluckier quality, a little stronger of an attack. So you could say, okay, I'm going to double my flute with the harp. Or I'm going to double my flute with glockenspiel or celeste, or something with a very sharp, plucky attack. And so yeah, you start off with which instrument you want to be the foundation of the sound, and then you think about how do you want to modify it? What qualities do you want to give the sound? There's a lot of different things that you can think about. I'd recommend starting with these videos. Again, if you would like a more all-encompassing resource about arranging and orchestration, I have two resources. First and foremost, the best resource, in my opinion, is one that has come up multiple times in this class already, in this live stream already, is my textbook, which is currently on sale to prepare for the live streams in February, where I will be going chapter by chapter each week through this book with my channel members on private live streams. If you want, you can have the table of contents here. You can get digital copies from my website. You can get physical copies on Amazon. It covers a lot of information. The part 3, so part 1 is all about harmony and chord progressions and telling stories with your harmony and creating cool backdrops. Part 2 is all about structure and melodies and writing full-length pieces and sketching them for piano or whatever instrument you want to sketch them for. And then part 3 is all about orchestration. So part 3 is where you learn all about arranging, how to make different decisions for different instruments, making a nice balance between each of your instruments and so forth, so on and so forth. Different orchestral textures, so different types of layers you can work with, and of course, how to create a realistic MIDI mockup. So this is a really cool resource, all encompassing. Like I said, digital copy is available on my website. It's on sale right now. And you can get physical copies on Amazon. Again, click this link here. I'm not going to click it because, again, that'll take me to Amazon and my address will be on screen and I don't want to share that with y'all. So not trying to dox myself. Let's see here. What was the other lesson? Academy. Yes, that's right. I was hovering over it. I also have free classes, which are basically just playlists from YouTube plus additional notes and assignments and stuff. Arranging 2 fundamental arranging techniques is probably the one that you're looking for. That will teach you. Orchestration 1 is more about instrumentation, which instruments are part of the orchestra, what are their ranges, what are their strengths. Orchestration 2, you don't have to take them in order, is more about arranging. Actual techniques for taking a sketch and arranging it for whatever ensemble you happen to be working with. There are 4 free classes. If you do take a class, please consider making a donation to help support the creation of future free classes. This is my passion project. And then, of course, while we're at it, Emotions of Music class. This is one of my favorite things I've ever created. This blends my 2 passions. I did go to school to be a therapist and then somehow ended up a professional composer instead. So this class is kind of me blending my 2 passions for psychology and music into teaching you not only how and why music portrays emotions in the first place, but very useful tools for how you can control those emotions yourself. It is currently gone through a couple different changes, and so there's no more cohorts. Instead, you get private lessons when you purchase the class. You get access to all of the modules. You can go through the modules at your own pace, schedule the private lessons at your own pace, and then, yeah. So that's all kind of cool stuff. So that's resources I would recommend for you. Sean Gilbert, honestly, looking at people like Mac Relief, knowing piano enables really fast arranging if you use looping. Oh, yeah, definitely. Piano helps a lot. So, yeah, my statements earlier, I didn't want to say it was inconsequential. That was not my goal at all. Learning piano is tremendously helpful for composing. I just have my own bias where I went through a very long period of time feeling like I wasn't allowed to be a composer unless I improved on piano. And that tends to be a common misconception. I will say, knowing piano makes composing significantly easier in many aspects. Arranging is quicker. I will say, understanding some tools on the pencil, with the pencil tool, makes MIDI mockups much easier. But composing ideas can be much quicker on if you know how to play an instrument. That's definitely for sure. It can definitely make the job easier. My little kind of discourse earlier was mostly just saying it's not 100% required. You should never feel like you're less of a composer if you can't play piano, kind of thing. Honestly, the only reason why piano is so important for composing these days and why there's like a piano scroll and everything was because it was the most useful instrument for orchestrating and sketching before we had digital audio workstations. It's still super useful, but it was back then people just couldn't afford to have a full orchestra play things for them, so they would play instead two players, 1 piano kind of thing. 4 hands. Oh hell yeah! Someone just bought a copy of my book. Thank you. Mark, is it? No, Lane. Thank you, Lane. I hope you enjoy it. Let's see here. Thanks, Sean. Movements can be hard. Piano makes writing 1,000 times faster, in my honest opinion. You don't have to be good. However, piano skill level becomes a bottleneck for arranging with piano since certain rhythms, movements can be hard. Yes, that is true. Very true. Thank you, Sean. Very insightful. All right, awesome. I'm back. Yes, so sorry about the buffering. Apologies for that. Like doubling is like jazz. I'm not sure I'm not sure I understand that. But yeah, like doubling is just basically functional doubling. It's where you have multiple instruments playing the same part. Where the purpose isn't necessarily to create a new sound, it's to help beef up the existing sound. Then unlike or expressive unisons or doublings are when you have multiple instruments playing the same part to purposely, yeah, it's going to increase the size and the width and the quality of the sound, but the primary thing is to create a new composite quality of sound. 23, there's lots of VSTs. That gimmick is to combine 4 sounds. The presets on those are always totally unique, cool timbres that might help look into. Also, ooh, yeah, so there are lots of really, really cool tools out there as well. I think I'm caught up. Excellent. All right, thank you. Welcome people who are new to the stream. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That does wonders for the algorithm. Leave comments too. Those are also very helpful. Let's listen to this little ditty again one last time, and then I'm going to add the organ pedals. Wow, we've been here for an hour already. So yeah, if you have any questions, throw them in now. I will answer any questions that come up, but we'll probably be calling it a day pretty soon. We've been streaming for over an hour now. So if you've got any questions, anything, throw them in now or forever hold your peace, or at least until next week when I do another stream. I like that. Ooh, I like that. I really like the extra weight the organ gives that. We'll stop there. Stretch this out. And we'll just stretch these out. And I believe eventually I probably will remove them early a little bit, because I do want a constantly evolving texture here. But right now, it's just a matter about getting ideas down. I'm not worried about making really high quality updates or changes or tweaks. I always start a lot like sketching, like an artist, where you get just a rough draft. And then I focus on refining my idea. Unless you are a prodigy, the likes of Mozart or Camille Saint-Saëns, you're probably not going to be writing everything vertically like a 3D printer and just creating something from the ground up. So I always try to like just come up with rough ideas and then see what else I can like refine. All right, let's see what questions we got here. Pineapple Panda, will your next stream start at a similar time as this one? Yes. Usually I start my streams at 3 p.m. Detroit time. Every couple of months I might do a poll to see if people want to change the time. But so far this seems to be the time that works. All of my streams do get uploaded as videos, so you'll be able to watch this stream afterwards. The second stream, so I'm going to start doing a private streams for my channel members in February, where we will go through my textbook chapter by chapter. That's going to be the first 36 streams, going through 36 chapters of my book. Basically a class. It's going to be a private class for my channel members where you're going to be taught from the very beginning. It's basically a guided study, taught everything that I would have wanted to know in the order I would have wanted to learn it if I were to start my journey over again, where you will be taught from a beginner to, at the very least, an intermediate, like low advanced composer level. Basically from a beginner to basically a professional grade, where you could start doing this professionally. That's the goal for the textbook. It's so we're going to go textbook chapter by chapter, week by week. Those live streams will start in February, and I'm probably going to do a poll to see which day of the week and which time works best for most channel members. If you're a channel member and you can't make it to the time that gets voted on, that's fine. The videos will be posted as well as private videos for channel members and for patrons. And yeah, if you have a question, if you do have the textbook and you have a question for a chapter and you can't make it, just send me the question via email or like a message on Instagram. I will definitely 100% address the question and give you examples and do all kinds of cool stuff to make sure that I do my best to help answer. And if you do send me a question ahead of time, I'll probably follow up with you after the stream to say, hey, did that answer your question? Do you have anything else I can help with? Just because I enjoy helping people. So yes, so that answers that question. Next we had Sean Gilbert. Speaking of layering, I suppose I was thinking of musical texture. I will look at the Brandt book, but I have read that McKay and the thing, but I have read the McKay. The thing is thinking about making cool stacks of rhythms and harmonies. Ah, yes. So you are thinking specifically texture. Texture is the number and types of layers in music. In which case, yeah, cool resources. The Henry Brandt book is very useful. Henry Brandt book, that's not going to help with that, actually. The orchestral textures and orchestras, that is like strictly instrumental. It's strictly about balancing instruments of the orchestra. So that's probably not what you're looking for. If you want to know how many flutes it takes to balance a trumpet, it's a good book. If you want another resource that's similar and not as expensive and not as dry, in my opinion, I do have a book on that exact topic in my bookshop. And it's more of a PDF guide than an actual book. But this one, How to Balance the Modern Orchestra, this ebook basically tackles questions like that. How many flutes does it take to balance a trumpet? How does that change if the trumpet is using a straight mute or a cup mute or a bucket mute? Stuff like that. So yeah, that's a resource you can check out. You can also check out, again, I think the class that would help the most for that would be this arranging course. It's free. Anyone can sign up for it. You don't have to pay anything. If you do sign up, please consider donating. Even $1 is very, very helpful for helping support the creation of additional free classes and resources in the future. The Academy is one of my passion projects, and you can read about why I have such a chip on my shoulder against music schools here. But yeah, so that's what I would recommend. Jab Step, thanks for all the info. I plan on buying your book and joining the Patreon before you delve into it. Thank you. Important update. It's not Patreon. So it's going to be, yes, the patrons will receive, they will receive access to the recordings of the streams, but the private streams are going to be YouTube channel members, which is basically Patreon, but it's just hosted by YouTube and not Patreon. And, I feel bad. I'm sorry, Patreon members. If you want to leave Patreon and become a channel member, please be my guest. I really appreciate your support. Patrons will receive recordings of the live streams. It's just there's unfortunately like YouTube has a built-in method where I can do private live streams for channel members only, and Patreon doesn't. So it's just kind of one of those weird things that I'm able to offer available to channel members, but I can't really do for patrons. So I apologize. This is no disrespect. I don't mean to be leave you out or anything. But yeah, so if you do want to be part of those private live streams, it's a channel member, not a patron. Apologies for the confusion. But awesome. I hope you enjoyed the book. Sean Gilbert. Of course, Ryan Leach has the whole orchestration via counterpoint and doubling. And there is like Mark Rebelit, which stacks like 3 times cross-rhythmed harmony blocks, a percussion, a melody that's made of licks and bass line. I just get curious about why people use drones and why they use Alberti bass and all the various terminology for codifying and simplifying complex textures. Yeah, literally texture is just a term that means the number and types of layers. It gets used incorrectly by some people, but literally. So if you have melody plus chords plus bass line, that's called a homophonic texture, I believe. Then if you have a melody doubled by a variation of itself, that's called a heterophonic texture. If you have multiple melodic lines being played at the same time, it's called a polyphonic texture. But you don't need to know those terms. You can, they're helpful. But really, texture just refers to which layers you have in your music. How many of them are there and what are they? Is it melody plus bass line plus counter melody? Is it melody plus chords plus arpeggios plus bass line? Whatever it is. Yeah, the arranging course would probably be very helpful for getting you started on that kind of stuff, because it's really just kind of figuring out what the primary layers of your music are, which is usually a melody, a bass line, and then some form of accompaniment. And then from there, the other layers you add, it's typically just having a reason for it. Like you could add a string runs, because the string runs help support the melody through something called additive accentuation through the use of a heterophonic texture, which basically just means that you're helping to emphasize the most important melodies of the notes of the melody by using a variation of the melody itself. I have a short on Instagram and YouTube that you can watch where I teach you a really cool strategy for that. It's taken from another live stream that I did. And yeah, so it's more about your reasonings for why you're adding layers. The golden rule for arranging in music is just to have a reason for everything. If you can't explain why you're adding an instrument or why you're adding a specific layer, and you don't have a reason for why it's contributing to the sound other than I feel like I'm leaving the trombones out and I don't want them to be bored or think I'm an amateur composer. Those are terrible reasons. Those are wrapped up more in your ego and insecurities. You want to make sure that you have a specific reason. Like, well, I'm using the trombones here because they're playing this counter melody in their primary register, and it gives a nice, powerful, bright quality to the layer that I'm really looking for, kind of thing. You want to have a specific reason for why you're using certain instruments, for why you're adding certain layers. And just basically, can you explain yourself? Of course, this is conventional knowledge, like it's the conventional wisdom, and you can say screw that. You can say I'm just going to add stuff without reason. That's perfectly fine too, because at the end of the day, music is a very personal journey, and you can do whatever you want with your music. But if you're trying to grow and develop and benefit from the knowledge of previous generations, then yeah, the conventional wisdom is when arranging, the golden rule is have a reason for everything. 23, I use drones to help reinforce the key center of the piece. Ah, yes, that is a very common strategy for using drones. And that goes back to the idea of having a reason for why you're adding different layers. I suppose Alberti brass would be along those lines as well, since it's all about the bass, which of course should imply a root note. Oh, I've been reading that wrong. It's not Alberti brass, it's Alberti bass. Yeah. Yeah, see, that really goes back to that kind of golden rule. Have a reason for everything. All right, excellent. Let's listen to this first part again one last time, just to buy a little bit of time. Then if you have any questions, put them in now. Otherwise, I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to go celebrate my dad's birthday after this. So his birthday is on Sunday, but we're having a family celebration this evening at my sister's house. So I got to head out in a bit. Hey, welcome, Judith. Thank you for becoming a channel member. I'm super excited. I'm looking forward to having you in the private streams. I really like how those organ pedals reinforce that note. Excellent, excellent. All right, so then after this, I would probably expand the melodies a little bit. The melody. You know what? Let's just do it. Let's just find something to expand it with. Because I am loving the effect of these organs, let's just add another one, shall we? Let's do a great manual this time. The great manual is a much more stereotypical sounding manual on an organ as the brightest, strongest. So organs, the different keyboards on an organ are called manuals. The choir manual is a very soft, consists of all the really soft sounds, typically used, like, again, when the choir was singing and the organ's not supposed to overpower them. The great manual consists of the strongest, brightest pipes and sounds, which are the most stereotypical organ sound. But then there's also something that many of them have called a swell manual, which were the pipes hidden behind something called a swell box, which was like you could use a pedal to open and close the box so that you could have a little bit of dynamic control, sort of like a medieval mod wheel for the organ. Then, of course, the pedals are the super low ones that you play with your feet. There are a lot of really cool videos out there about composing for organ. I don't think I've done one. I had to study writing for organ for a project I had a while back ago. It was a lot of fun. Got to work with a local organ player and kind of learn how she plays the instrument and different recommendations she has. All right, so see, there we got the great manual. That might actually be a little bit strong. I don't want to trumpet. Start with the float. Let's try an octave higher. Too bright. I like this. That might be a bit too bright. It's a little too loud. I like that one. All right, so these stops are the ones I like the most. So these different stops are different types of pipes that are being used. So the flauto dolce are very, again, flute-like, soft. Trumpet, obviously, has a very bright trumpet-like quality. Then they have a couple that I don't know what diapason is anymore. But the numbers refer to the octave. So you'll notice an 8 is kind of like, if you go higher, it's an octave higher. And then not all of them are actual octaves. Some of them are perfect fifths, perfect fourths, stuff like that. Every organ is unique. But let's do this. I am going to just simply copy and paste this. Now let's play through this. Let's play it in. No, I lied. Let's copy and paste the cello at least. See how this sounds. All right, here we go. We are going to do this with the pipe organ a couple octaves higher because I am inspired, and we'll see if it sounds good. If it doesn't, I don't know, bang my head against the desk or something. But I'll call it a day at least. All right, so let's try this. Here we go. We'll start at the beginning of the cello part. Ah, Judith. Awesome. Well, thank you for buying the book. Hopefully now with the live streams, you'll have an excuse to read it, right? I'm not going to use the metronome. I'm just going to kind of feel it and follow the MIDI data. Which is probably a mistake, but I don't care. Sometimes I just need to learn the hard way. Multiple times. I could just copy and paste. I'm in too deep. It's coming up. I'm gonna have to add some volume automation to this. All right, so pipe organ. Oh, you're kidding me. I wasn't recording. All right, that's what I get. Let's just pop it in anyways. This way we'll do Alt and click and drag. Besides, you know, I actually don't know. Does this library actually use modulation? Because the pipe organ technically can't control its dynamics like other instruments can. It can't fade in and out, at least. Apparently it can. It does have modulation. Let's drag this up a little bit. That's handy. All right, so Spitfire did give this library modulation capabilities, which is not accurate, but appropriate, and I appreciate it. Let's see how loud this is. Sorry, guys, I'm not looking at the comments at the moment. I'm kind of getting lost in the music a little bit. Apologies for that. I will look in a moment. Let's increase. Just for being lazy. Just by 6 decibels. Let's shut that down to 4. And then I'm feeling like bringing in brass after this. Just getting the same melody, just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Oh, this is going to be fun. All right, let's start from the beginning. Maybe I won't get off just yet. No, I gotta go to my dad's birthday dinner. All right, I swear, I'm going to get off, and I'm going to get off after this. Maybe. We'll see. Pop in your questions. Oh, yeah, that sounds like fun, 23. Having an idea of like going through my favorite sound libraries. I'm going to tell you right now, and this is not just because I'm technically an affiliate, but my favorite libraries have legitimately been Museo recently. Museo, I have an affiliate link down in the description, I think. If not, I have one in my most recent video. They are incredible quality and just quantity and variety. Best bang for your buck. But yeah, I would love to do a live stream. How about that? Save before I lose all of this. All right, so the idea I have right now, and I don't have time because I do need to start getting ready to go to my family dinner. I'm going to bring the brass in. Each repetition of the melody, I'm going to add more size. And so I'm going to bring in the brass, and the brass are going to start on that pedal, that low pedal again. Just going to boom. In fact, let's just do that real quick. Have some fun with it. And then from there, the brass will join on the melody as well across multiple octaves, really beefing it up. And then I'll probably start gradually adding a counter melody or some kind of rhythmic ostinati in the background, start adding more movement. And the idea is just kind of building size, building movement, building the intensity of the music, until eventually kind of fading out a little bit. Ooh, this started off as just kind of stupid little project, but now I'm really enjoying this. I think I've got something here. All right, let's go. Ooh. Yeah, the modulation's a bit strong there. Let's bring it down, but I like that. that wasn't nearly strong enough. Let's try again. I like that. All right. And then if we added some high brass. Just playing the melody as well. And then I'm going to have to copy and paste this cello and the organ and then play it all in again later. I don't have time for this. But let's do long octaves in the brass though. Let's see here. More comments. French horn time. Yes. Oh, French horns. I'm going to put French horns on a counter melody. What if I go an octave higher? It's a bit strong. A little bright. Let's just stick to the octave. I don't want it too bright. Let's do... And then we'll bring this down here. Let's drop the octave a little bit. And we'll stretch this one out a little bit so that we got the low brass. Again, this is not intended to be a realistic performance. This is entirely just treating my sound libraries like the synthesizers they are. Well, let's bring this down. Let's just copy and paste so I don't make the same mistake I did last time. Let's bring this so it's on middle C. That's too low for the library. There we go. Let's bring this a little brighter. Start over here. Brass aren't nearly strong enough. You know what? Maybe if I just drop. Why is this brass not hitting like it should? That might do it. Let's listen to it at the top. Shagufta Nadim. Hey, hopping in for a second. I'm completely new to music production, only played guitar before. I have a scholarship for Berklee Online for doing any one course there for free. Which course would you recommend? Ooh, that's a really good question. That is dependent on your goals. Send me an email. Send me an email to tabletopcomposer at gmail.com. I don't usually respond over the weekend, but in the email, tell me if there's a time crunch. If there is a time crunch, you need like an answer this weekend. I'll respond this weekend, but normally I try to take the weekends off for me. But yeah, send me an email. This is something we can discuss one-on-one instead of going into the stream. Uh-oh, it's buffering again. Yeah, first time was off Foghorn. Let's listen to this one last time, and then I'm calling it, people, because I do need to hit the roads. I got to get out for dinner with my family. All right. Nighty night. Thanks for stopping by. A little bit strong. I'll fix that later. And the balance of the brass is all off, but I'll fix that later. For now, I've got the basic ideas down, and I really like that. I'm probably going to start adding at the same time, kind of like a shorter string, like adding some movement, adding something new, so it's not just getting too repetitive. But with that, I do need to call it a day, my friends. I need to hit the road. Any questions? Looks like we're all caught up on questions. Thank you so much to everyone who stopped by. Thank you again for the wonderful super chats. Thank you for everyone who became new channel members. I am super excited to start all of the new projects this year for this channel. If you didn't get on in time to see the announcements and everything, check out my most recent video where I go in detail about all my plans for the channel this year. Got a lot of really fun, exciting stuff coming up. All right, so until next time, my friends, I will be live streaming again next week. Hopefully, I will see you there. But keep studying, keep working hard, keep running new music. I will see you all in the next video. All right, bye for now.